Florence, September 1433. The most powerful man in Italy is locked in a tower cell barely wide enough to lie down in, and he is refusing to eat, not as protest. He is afraid of poison. For 4 days he lives on almost nothing, while the government below decides whether to take his head. And here is the strange part. This man has no army, no crown, no title. He has never held real office for more than a few months. If you had walked past him a week earlier, you would have seen a plainly dressed middle-aged man discussing olive trees with a farmer, in no hurry at all, as if he had nowhere in the world to be. The men who arrested him are the opposite, loud, urgent, everywhere at once. The busiest men in Florence. Within 18 months, every one of them will be gone, and the unhurried man in the cell will quietly own the city for 30 years. His name is Cosimo de Medici. A century later, Machiavelli will study his life like scripture, trying to decode how a man who never looked busy defeated everyone who did. By the end of this story, and it ends with 4 words Cosimo spoke on his deathbed, 4 words that explain everything. You'll understand why the rich still never look busy, and why you always do. And you'll see that the reason is not what you think. Go back a few years. Florence in the 1420s is the most paranoid city in Europe. A republic in name, a knife fight in practice, where the oldest families destroy each other over precedence at church and seats on councils. Power here is a performance. You display it. You parade it. The great families keep small armies of followers who march behind them through the streets, because in Florence, being seen commanding is the same as commanding. At the top of this performance stands Rinaldo degli Albizzi, proud, brilliant, tireless, visibly running everything. He speaks in every council. He answers every challenge. He is magnificently, publicly busy, and in a quiet palace across the city sits Cosimo, heir to his father's fortune, who does something no one in Florence can decode. He withdraws. He dresses below his wealth. He rides a mule when he could ride a stallion. He arrives at councils and says almost nothing, votes with the majority, and leaves early. In the mornings he prunes his own vines. But listen carefully, because underneath the stillness, something is moving. Every loan quietly extended to a struggling family, every dowry paid for a poor man's daughter, every tax bill discreetly settled for a useful friend. Cosimo isn't performing power. He is manufacturing obligation, silently, one household at a time, until half of Florence owes him something, and almost no one can say exactly what. Stop here, before the arrest, and notice what he is refusing to do. He refuses to look like effort. There's a bias in your mind that psychologists call the effort heuristic. You instinctively judge the value of a thing by how much visible work went into it, and you assume the same about people. The man sweating must be the man mattering. Cosimo understood the aristocratic inversion of it. Visible effort is what you show when the outcome is still in doubt. Ease is what you show when it isn't. Busyness doesn't display power. It displays that you still need something. Now hold that against your own week. The rushed walk through the office so everyone sees you're slammed. The so busy right now, you say with a note of pride. The replies at midnight, not because they're needed, but because being seen straining feels like being seen mattering. Every one of those signals is read by the people above you, exactly the way Florence read the Albizzi. Not as importance, as need. Rinaldo degli Albizzi reads Cosimo's calm correctly as the most dangerous thing in the city, so he does the busy man's move. He acts, fast, loud, and in public. September 1433. Cosimo is summoned to the palace on a pretext and arrested on the stairs. Locked in the tower cell they call the Little Inn. The charge is treason, that his quiet influence has made him a private citizen greater than the state, which is of course true. And now his philosophy is stress-tested by catastrophe, because everything that made him powerful is useless in a cell. The obligations, the friendships, the quiet network, none of it can vote. Rinaldo has the government, the momentum, and the mob. All of Florence waits for Cosimo to finally do what powerful men do when cornered: rage, plead, perform, call in every favor at once, be seen fighting for his life. He does almost nothing. He sits in the cell. He barely eats. The fear of poison is real, until, the story goes, he arranges for his jailer to share his meals, turning the man guarding him into the man tasting for him. He sends no armies, because he has none. He makes no speeches. He lets one quiet channel do the work. The story goes that 1,000 florins found their way to the official who held his life in his hands. And Cosimo later joked that the man was a fool for asking so little. He would have paid 10 times more. The death sentence dissolves into exile. Cosimo is escorted out of Florence in the night, banished for 10 years. Rinaldo has won. The busy man at last has beaten the still one. Except watch what leaves the city with him. Stop here. Notice what Cosimo did not do in that cell. He did not perform his importance. He did not flood Florence with proof of how essential he was. The speeches, the letters, the desperate visible struggle. Because he understood something about scarcity. The mind assigns value to what withdraws, not to what begs. A thing pressed into your hands feels cheap. A thing removed from the room becomes the only thing anyone can think about. He didn't argue that Florence needed him. He simply let Florence experience his absence, and let the absence make the argument. You already know the modern mirror, because you've felt both sides of it. The colleague who fights to prove he's indispensable somehow never is, and the one who leaves quietly, no scene, no speech, becomes, within a month, the person everyone says the place fell apart without. Availability is a price tag. The more instantly and anxiously you're available to everyone, the lower the number reads. Cosimo knew his number. He let the city do the math. Venice receives the exile like a visiting prince. And back home, the arithmetic begins. Credit tightens. Deals stall. The families who owed Cosimo grow quiet and uncooperative. Rinaldo, who staked everything on being seen running Florence, now visibly runs a city that is visibly failing. And Busyness has no answer for that, because busyness was only ever a picture of competence, and the picture is now hanging over a collapse. 1 year, that's all it takes. A new government is drawn whose members lean toward the Medici. The exile is revoked, and in the autumn of 1434, Cosimo rides back into Florence, through streets packed with people, cheering him like a returning king. He never raised a hand. Rinaldo degli Albizzi, the tireless, the loud, the everywhere at once, is banished for life. He dies far from Florence, still writing letters, still busy, still explaining. And now comes the part Machiavelli couldn't stop studying, because Cosimo comes home holding the city in his palm, and refuses, again, to look like it. No title, no crown, no procession of followers. For 30 years he rules Florence as what one observer called a king in everything but name, while insisting in public that he is a simple merchant. Foreign ambassadors are formally received by the government, and then quietly walk to Cosimo's palace, where the actual answer lives. He builds libraries. He funds philosophers. He walks to church. Machiavelli, writing his history of Florence decades later, marvels at exactly this, that Cosimo grasped what almost no man in history has managed, how to hold total power while wearing the costume of an ordinary citizen. Stop one last time, because there's a name for the costume. A generation after Cosimo, a Renaissance courtier named Castiglione wrote down the rule the old families had always known and never said, and he called it Sprezzatura. The art of concealing effort so completely that mastery looks like something you were simply born doing. It is, on its face, a small vanity. It is actually a weapon, because the man whose effort you can see, you can measure, you know his limit, his cost, his strain. The man whose effort you cannot see is unmeasurable, and human nature fears what it cannot measure far more than what it can. So look one last time at the mirror and be honest about what your busyness is for. Some of it is real work. That's not the target. The target is the displayed strain, the performed exhaustion, the calendar shown like a wound. That display doesn't come from your workload. It comes from a belief installed somewhere far back, that you are only safe while you are visibly producing, that stillness must be earned, that a calm man is a man about to be caught. The rich never look busy for the same reason Cosimo rode a mule. Their worth was settled before you walked in. Yours, the display admits, is still being argued. Cosimo rules until 1464. He outlives his rivals, his partners, and one of his sons. And at the very end, an old man in the villa at Careggi, he begins doing something that unsettles his wife. He sits for long stretches with his eyes closed. Not sleeping, just closed. She finally asks him why. The story goes he answered, to get them used to it. 4 words, and there is the withheld card, the thing the deathbed reveals about the whole life. The stillness was never a tactic he switched on for Florence. It was the entire operating system. Rinaldo performed for the crowd, so the crowd's verdict destroyed him. Cosimo performed for no one, not the councils, not the ambassadors, not even, at the end, for death. And so no audience on earth held a verdict over him. That is what the calm of the truly powerful actually is. Not leisure, not laziness, the visible absence of anyone they still need to convince. Florence understood, too late to tell him. On his tomb they carved the title, no busy man in the city's history ever earned. Father of the fatherland. He never asked for it. That's why he got it. And a century later, the man who studied Cosimo hardest, Machiavelli, spent his own life doing the exact opposite, proving himself, over and over, to every master Florence gave him. What that cost him, drop by drop, is the story of how every time you prove yourself, you pay for it.